You're watching Open Agenda. Here's our host, Joe White.
Welcome to Open Agenda. I'm your host, Joe White. In the studio with me today is Mr. Bob Taylor from Salisbury. Thank you. Dr. Joe Vanosa from Salisbury.
Thanks, sir.
So we were all at the county council meeting on Tuesday night. We were there to really get more information about the MOA with ICE. Mm-hmm. But one of the other subjects that came up from the meeting 3 weeks ago, the second meeting in September, was the Bible passages, and there were 5 of them, that Councilman James Nguyen read.
I brought something important here today, that we've got some people in this audience and in this council that are trying to figure out what is going on in the world. Why is this happening? Why the craziness, right? I hear it up here, and I'm telling you, it's because people are falling away from the Word, from Christ. And it's actually, everything's right here, the answers. This is truth. You've got the beginning, you've got the present, and you've got the ending written right here. It's all here. It's already in 2 Thessalonians, where there will be a falling away. And I have a few scriptures that I'd like to read. And I just want everybody to really think about this. I know not everyone here is a Christian, and that's okay. I'll pray for you. And, there's only one way. There's only one way. And that's through Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior.
That seemed to really have an impact. About half of the audience that was left at that point decided to leave. It was an uncomfortable time. Some folks had actually reached out to the council president, John Cannon, and the council itself and asked them to at least address it. We didn't hear anybody address it other than some public comments in support of James Nguyen, right?
And a couple against, too, to be fair.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. That's true. Well, particularly Monica Brooks. She came up and it was very heartfelt.
My name is Monica Brooks. I'm president of Wacomico County in AACP. I'm also a resident of Wacomico County and Salisbury. Okay. The first thing I want to say, as a believer, as a Christian, people need to stop calling Christianity a political party. There is no political party of Jesus. That's right. No. There is Christ, there's politics, and you can't say Republican is the same as Christianity. No, you cannot say that. And that's part of the problem. People are making our faith into something political, and Christ was not even about that.
Councilwoman Cheney Shields also addressed it sort of
that's true
in a broader way with immigration, but I do believe she also addressed the issue of sort of acceptance and not imposing one's political beliefs on others through religion.
Yeah. Bob, I'm going to bring in Jim Atkins because he was there. I know from a legal standpoint that you have some information for us and an opinion, but we also, when you come back, I want to talk about the one Supreme Court case with Greece, New York, that was referenced by a member from the Young Republicans Club. And I want to ask you specifically about that as well.
I know that there's been some controversy lately around a county councilman for reading scripture a couple weeks ago. I don't really think there's any problem with this either. I've heard that there are groups that are going to be coming after him for reading a little, the Bible during a meeting. I mean, we had a case with the Supreme Court, Greece versus town of Greece versus Galloway many years ago, which essentially decided that prayer and religious activities being done by a county councilman or an elected official does not violate the First Amendment. And I think it's important that we remember that a lot of our laws and our society in a large way is founded upon Christian values. There's no problem with that. A lot of people in this room are religious, and our society operates on a moral foundation. So I don't think there's a problem with that either.
Yeah, I actually don't have a strong opinion, but I do have a real concern about what they're doing, particularly with the Lord's Prayer and also with this prayer reading, Bible reading.
Okay.
Because governments around the country have been forced to pay money in lawsuits.
In legal fees, yeah.
So that's my concern.
Well, I'm going to ask you to come back. Stick around. So stay with us. When we come back, we're going to bring in Jim Atkins, and we're actually going to talk about what was said at the county council meeting last Tuesday night. So stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Open Agenda. In the studio with us now is Mr. Jim Atkins. Thank you. Thanks for sticking around, Dr. Venosa.
Thanks, sir.
So Tuesday's meeting, we heard some folks in the public comments talk about the Bible reading from Councilman Nguyen 3 weeks ago at the last meeting. Several folks came out in support of him.
Hello, I'm Caleb Evans. I'm a local here in the Tri-County area. I just wanted to come out and voice my opinion for the councilman that used scriptures the other day in one of the council meetings, that I'm a vehement supporter of that. This is a large Christian population with the Tri-County area and across the eastern shore of Maryland in general. And I think it behooves the rest of the other public officials to realize that we are a major population and a voice in these areas, and we demand representation. And so for our religious beliefs to be suppressed or be attempted to be suppressed is, well, that's just going to be a non sequitur. That's not going to work, because we here, as of recently, as of the past, say, 10, 15 years, Christians in general have been mobilizing. We have been getting very organized, and that organization ends up showing itself in voting in elections.
What I actually came up here for is because there's a young man that I've known since a kid. Okay, started out in the same church I did. We call the same guy Bishop, and he's now a councilman, Councilman James Nguyen. Of all the things to model themselves after, standing up and saying a couple scriptures, I'd rather that happen. Now, I know some people say, wait, yeah, but he used this platform. You know what? Before God, he don't say, well done, my good and faithful servant, even if they don't call you your good and faithful servant. I'd pray that you would at least pray before you make your next step.
Good evening, members of the council. Thank you for having me here today. My name is Pax Garcia. I understand that on September 16th, 2025, there was a Wicomico County Council Legislative and Open Works session meeting where Councilman James Nguyen read some scripture at the meeting. He read a passage from the Bible. And I wanted to, as a young man who is 25 years old, I want to thank Councilman James Nguyen for reading the Bible passage that he did. He serves as a great role model for so many of us. I would like to say that we as Christians do support Councilman James Nguyen, and we want as many people to be Christian and to take their faith seriously and to represent that, not just privately, but publicly as well. And of course, that includes especially in local government as well as all government. And I hope that every other councilman follows in his footsteps and remembers that the Republican voters are Christian.
From a legal aspect, we have to look at just exactly what transpired and what was allowed to transpire, right? Joe, I want to ask you. You were at the meetings both last night and 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
What do you think would have been the appropriate response at this next meeting from some of the concerns that were brought up?
Well, I think, this is my personal view, I think it would have been both, frankly, morally correct and legally advisable if the county council president had, to some extent, addressed it. In particular, I would say that he should have addressed not only the fact that Mr. Nguyen was not speaking on behalf of the government, because that's the issue that is at heart here, and the fact that it was not the intention of the council to convey one specific religious orthodoxy on the public.
Yeah. And he used that terminology, there is just one way.
Correct. And that was a really good point that Mr. Goldberg, our friend, had mentioned, was that
with respect to Mr. Nguyen's comments at the last council meeting, America was founded on Judeo-Christian principles. For that, I am glad. But not everybody is a Christian. I am not a Christian. I am of the Jewish faith. And I don't come to council meetings to be indoctrinated in Christian theology. I come to participate in the functioning of government. But Mr. Nguyen's message was completely exclusionary. He said, I didn't have an issue so much with the scriptures being read, but I do have an issue with the comments that he made thereafter. And he did say, I know not everyone here is a Christian. That's okay. I'll pray for you. Mr. Nguyen, I'm sorry. I don't need your prayers. There's more than one path to God. and yours is not the only way. And I resent the fact that you presented it in such a manner. In fact, he went on to say that there's only one way, and that's through our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. I am perfectly okay with you believing that, but you made those statements during a legislative session of the government. The courts have been pretty darn clear on this, and there are going to be consequences for it. Everyone should be able to practice their faith as they see fit. It is not for you or anybody else in this room to tell me or somebody else how they are to believe. And if you don't believe, as Mr. Wynn does, then you're a second-class citizen. I will not be a second-class citizen. I am not a second-class citizen, and neither is anybody else in this room. Thank you.
It's actually fine. Again, I have more of a cultural disagreement with even prayer at the opening of a meeting. And frankly, I think it shows someone's lack of faith and insecurity when you have to, sort of project it out in public. It shows an insecurity, in my view. But you can do that. But as you were saying, the real issue here is the fact that at a certain point, Mr. Wynn said, as the government, there is only one way, and if you're not a Christian, I will pray for you. Well, if we're going by that, then should we just be in Iran or North Korea or various other kinds of theocracies? Because that is essentially what the First Amendment was written to protect against.
Yeah. So, Jim, there was a lot of speakers in support of Councilman Wynn, and they talked about him reading a Bible passage, but in fact, he actually read 5 back in September. So this wasn't him referencing a Bible passage that spoke to him about decisions he was making on behalf of a government representative. This was him proselytizing in front of the audience.
Yes. And whenever you get into religion, you're getting into a touchy subject with a lot of people. Everybody has their own way of worshiping or not worshiping, but, it's a private thing. When it becomes public, you should be in a church or you should be in a religious setting and make it public. When you're in a government function, I don't have a problem with the Lord's Prayer at the beginning of the council meeting for the fact, in my view, you're asking for guidance and help in how you conduct yourself and how the meeting happens.
I would agree.
Now, once that's over, public comments, you're allowed 3 minutes to say whatever you want to say. Public can stand up there and say whatever they want to say. But council members should not be reading scriptures. They should not be alienating other religions with the statement that, I'll pray for you or I'll save you. And one of the things that really kind of upset me more Tuesday night than the previous council meeting was all of a sudden it seems like in order to be a Christian, you have to be a Republican.
Well, so Monica Brooks spoke about that.
Yes, she did very well.
And one of the things, and this illuminates exactly how I feel. Jesus wasn't part of a political party.
Exactly.
And she actually was taking offense to the fact that as a Christian herself, that she was supposedly being lumped into the Republican Party, which she's not a part of.
Right.
No more than people who are Republicans who aren't of Christian faith should be excluded.
Yes.
But we've seen this? I mean, we're talking performative politics.
Yeah.
And is this the root cause of the DeMarva conservative movement's involvement?
Well, and I'm sorry, but one of the things that I was told yesterday, and I have no knowledge of this other than being told by a person, was that the majority of the speakers who spoke on Mr. Wynn's behalf the other night are from the
Young Republican
Committee that meet and hold their meetings in Mr. Wynn's church.
Yes.
And that he asked if they felt comfortable if they would come speak and stand up for him.
Well, we saw Colin McEvers come, and he cited a Supreme Court ruling And I'm going to bring Bob Taylor back in later because I want to talk about that because I believe it was misquoted. But Joe, I want to ask you the same question. I mean, performative politics, is this the root of having the Delmarva conservative movement as the head? Because they basically lead the Republican Central Committee, the Republican Party in Wicomico County right now.
It is. And again, it's been clear for a long time that they have used a certain kind of evangelical Christianity. I'm putting in quotes because I have to say this publicly. I don't believe any of these people are actually Christian. I say that as somebody with a little bit of a degree of seminary background and who has a PhD in history that has a pretty big focus on the history of Christianity, at least in Africa and the Middle East. So I don't consider these people true Christians in the sense of the theology. What they are, though, is they are panderers of an identity politics that uses a couple of Christian terminologies and a very, very remedial understanding of the King James Version of the Bible to score certain political points. But what they like to do is use that supposed Christian identity as a front for their particular Republican-centered political views, which, as you've said, there's plenty of Muslim Republicans in Michigan. How would they feel? Or let's flip the script. If we brought an imam from Dearborn, Michigan, even a really conservative one, to the council meeting and they decided to give an opening prayer, or somebody from the local Hindu temple, would Mr. Wynn support that?
I tell you, one of the aspects of this that really irritate me is some of the speakers spoke about the founding of this country as if it was founded strictly on Christian principles, and that's just not true. It was actually founded on tolerance.
And they clearly never have read Thomas Paine, one of the most prominent atheists in the history of North America. Thomas Jefferson, a deist who essentially was a closet atheist by the end of his life.
He wrote his own Bible.
Absolutely. Yeah. And also made a copy of the Quran, right? Yeah. So he was interested in theology without being a theocrat. So the history is more complicated. And whenever you get into, this is what our country, our society is based on, that's a really broad statement. Yeah. And it completely erodes the actual fact.
Jim, do you think we've heard the last of this?
No, I don't think. I think it's going to keep going, and it's going to be pressed. But you also have to reflect back, and I'm going to take you back probably 2 years. May only be a year and a half, but I'm going to call it 2 years, where the councilman who wanted to read the scriptures to us all at the council meeting, a couple years ago when the Board of Education was in at a council meeting doing a work session, and they were talking about the number of foreign language students that we had in this county and how many foreign language teachers that we needed. And that councilman made a statement that, do we have to pay for that? Where's your humanity and Christianity there? Yes, these people are here. Do you want them to learn English? You have to teach them English. You have to treat them fairly.
And just so we're clear, Jesus didn't speak English.
Yeah.
I don't know if Mr. Wynn is aware of that or some of the other folks on the Delmarva.
That would be a good.
But if you're going to be a Christian,
where's the humanity in all this?
The one thing that's disappointing is this is very likely to cause us to lose having the Lord's Prayer at the beginning, and I like that it's there. I know it's a little traditionalist and it's self-serving for me, but at the same time, this type of scrutiny is how you end up losing that.
That's the irony. That's the irony.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you both.
Thank you.
So stay with us. When we come back, we're going to bring in Bob Taylor, former county council attorney, and we're going to ask him for some legal opinions about just what has transpired. So stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Open Agenda. Thanks for coming back in the studio, Mr. Taylor. Appreciate you being here. Dr. Venosa, thanks for sticking around.
Always.
So we had a chance to talk with Jim Atkins about exactly what happened. And I know you were at the meeting, but I wanted to get another citizen's viewpoint. But now that we're in this part of the show, I want to talk about the legal precedents that come about. What does the Constitution say? And then this misquoted Supreme Court ruling.
Yeah, let me give you, it'll be a little bit of a legal lecture. But what I'll start with is, this is First Amendment. It's called the Establishment Clause, part of the First Amendment. And literally what it says is, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. Now, how do we get from this, Congress can't make laws, to the Supreme Court banning in the 1960s prayer and Bible reading in the public schools?
Okay.
Congress doesn't have anything to do with the public schools.
Yeah.
They never made any law about the public schools, but yet we got there. Well, we did that because the Supreme Court essentially stretched that language to mean more than what it means just literally.
Okay.
The first thing they did was they stretched it to mean not just the legislative branch of the federal government, that is Congress, but the entire federal government. There really weren't many Establishment Clause cases before World War II. Now, they never got to prayer in what I call legislative prayer, that is, before legislative bodies like we have in our county council. They didn't get to that until 1983. And that was a case, the Marsh case. It involved the Nebraska legislature. They paid a clergyman, he happened to be a Presbyterian, for a number of years to give an invocation before their sessions. Apparently, it was pretty much non-sectarian, and he did this for 15 years, and then somebody raised the question about it. It finally went up to the Supreme Court. So in any event, in that particular case, they found that that was okay. Those particular invocations were okay, but they gave a warning. The judge that wrote the majority opinion gave a warning, but you cannot proselytize or advance one religion or disparage any faith or belief. So they warned, this one's okay, but watch out. Now, about 35 years later, we have the town of Greece case.
Now, this is the one that was referenced by Colin McEvers.
Yeah, I'll get to that in a second. Greece is a small town in New York, and it was their legislative body. I think they were called commissioners. And they brought in different clergy people, invited them to come in and give an invocation or prayer. They were almost entirely all Christian, and at times it got pretty much over into proselytizing. And that may be a real factor here. Now, when they were initially sued, they decided, well, we'll bring in some other faiths, including a Jewish rabbi and some others. So they tried to begin to mix it up. That one also passed muster. But again, they gave warnings about you cannot proselytize. You have to make what they called a fact-sensitive analysis, including the setting in which the prayer has been given and to whom it's directed, in other words, the audience. They adopted what they call the reasonable observer standard. Now, to me, this is a little bit like when one of the Supreme Court justices was asked about what's pornography, and he said, I can't possibly define it, but I know it when I see it. And what's happened is those two cases didn't really give the lower courts a good background as to what is really permitted and what's prohibited.
Okay.
And that's led to where we are today. And I'll skip over to that next. In the Fourth Circuit, we're in the Fourth Circuit of the federal judicial system. That includes Maryland, Virginia, West Virginia, the two Carolinas. Somebody brought a case in 2017, or it was resolved in 2017, pardon me. And this was a prayer opening by the commissioners of a county in North Carolina, Rowan County. They were mostly Christian. Sometimes they got into overt proselytizing, according to the opinion. They asked the audience to rise and pray, somewhat similar to our county council procedure, maybe not exactly the same, but not a whole lot different. That was held by the lower court, trial court there, to be unconstitutional. It was appealed to the Fourth Circuit. The Fourth Circuit had a real wrangle with it. At first, they reversed that lower court and said, no, this is okay. I don't care about the little bit of proselytizing. It still passed muster. And that long tradition has, in these earlier cases I mentioned, Marsh, Town of Greece, that was a main body of the jurisprudence, that this has gone on for a long time. It seems to be okay.
Well, Bob, I mean, if I may just step in quickly. So we've established that there's a long history of, as you've said, prayer used in the context of an invocation by a minister or some kind of religious authority. But that's very different, right, than Mr. Wynn, who is, correct me if I'm wrong, he's not an ordained minister, and he is a sitting member of the government.
Oh, I'll get to that. I'll
Just
get to
checking.
that.
Just
And-
making sure.
Yeah, and
I want to make sure that Mr.
yeah.
Wynn's not an actual...
Now, there's another case that came up at the same time in a different circuit. That's the Sixth Circuit, that was almost the same factually and went just the other way.
Okay.
So you had what they call a split in the circuits. Now, normally, that is a ground to go to the Supreme Court. That's one of their... they don't take every case. They decide them... it's called issuing certiorari, a writ of certiorari. They denied certiorari on those two cases, even though they were split. They both asked for review, and in one of the cases, it was the Rowan County case, there was a dissent by Judges Thomas and Gorsuch. They thought the case should have been taken by the Supreme Court, and they made remarks about the Fourth Circuit ruling in Rowan County. They said that they thought that was unfaithful to the precedent of the Supreme Court. We talked about the Town of Greece case. That was the case that a fellow from Salisbury University at the meeting this week, the council meeting, brought up and quoted from or just gave a synopsis. His synopsis was that case, the Supreme Court had approved prayer by council members. Well, that's not the case at all. It didn't even involve prayer by council members. It involved prayer by an invited clergy.
Right.
Yeah, so he was wrong on his facts. He also said, oh, it's an older case. It's a real old case. Well, it's from 2014. That's about 10 years ago, 11. I guess if you're 20 years old.
20 years old, that is a long time ago.
10 years
Yeah.
might be a long time. But in any event, he totally misrepresented the case. If a first-year law student did that, they'd probably be invited to the dean's office to be told maybe you should take up a different trade.
Yeah.
My concern is, in the Rowan County case, the county had to pay $285,000 to the plaintiff's attorney. In the end, it was settled. So that's my real concern with this.
Yeah, that there's going to be an
What-
expense with the
What are
county.
we going to get stuck with in money? The prayer itself doesn't bother me. I'm old enough. I went to grade school when we had prayer in the schools. So I'm familiar with the Lord's Prayer every morning.
So, Joe, we even public comments. We even had someone come up and actually give a prayer. And I mean, does that bother you that somebody would come up and that's what they want to speak about?
It doesn't bother me. I mean, if that's a private citizen in public comments, they can do it. I don't necessarily like it or personally even really respect it, but they have the right to do that.
Yeah, I would agree.
I respect the right. But again, all of this comes back to one very simple issue. Mr. James Wynn is the government. He, as the government, is telling people there is one religion, there's one way, and if you don't believe it, I'm going to pray for you and I'm going to proselytize you from the pulpit of government. And that is a tailor-made lawsuit, as you have said and others have stated, and it's going to put the county in serious legal jeopardy.
Well, I think it's done two things. First of all, it's lit the fire. Because we've been giving the Lord's Prayer for years at our meetings, and nobody has seriously complained about it. Possibly the way they do it has been changed slightly. But in any event, it's let off the explosion.
And this is the great irony, and this is, I think, ironically, Mr. Wynn's probably his biggest contribution to the county council now is for someone who is such a self-described evangelical Christian, he's probably going to end up causing the county to lose its opening prayer.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, and I can't tell you.
Fine with me, but, you know.
I could not find any cases where somebody like James Wynn, just sitting in his chair, has just done Bible readings. I can't find that, but unfortunately, he's doing it as a member of the government in a government setting where an audience comes to listen to the government do
government
business.
stuff. Yeah.
And I talked to no less than 3 people at that last county council meeting who said they were going to pursue legal action. So there's probably
That's
going to be.
unfortunate.
It's unfortunate, but it's a self-imposed tragedy. In my
And
opinion.
he actually never addressed it at all. He never defended it. He never took a step back and said, hey, maybe this offended some people. He had nothing to say
Not
about it.
much Christian courage, in my opinion.
Well, thank you both. Appreciate it. Thanks for watching this episode of Open Agenda. We'll be back later this week with another new episode. I mean, I just can't get it all in.
Well,